So thank you, everybody. I'm Brett Ratchford with Blue Zones Project in the Dalles. Has anyone heard of Blue Zones Project or seen? Oh wow, lots of head nods. Okay, I imagine if you come to this event, you're probably aware of this type of stuff. So the Blue Zones Project is focused on the Dalles and is a 3-year public health initiative that's based on Blue Zones research. I actually have a couple of the books here that I'll be raffling off later. And has anyone heard of what an actual blue zone is? So, okay, some head nods. So what a blue zone is it's a demographic term. So it's a term that researchers first discovered around the year 2000, where they found these parts of the world where people were living to 90 and 100 at rates 10 times what we usually do here in the US. So they kind of dubbed them a blue zone, a pocket of longevity. So that was these areas they first found. There is one in the US, but the other 5 are kind of on islands and in different farther flung places of the world. So that was the original research, and they wrote a bunch of books about it. And then since then, US communities have picked up that as a model for how they can make a community such as the Dalles healthy. So based on this research, which was where the same main author went to the happiest countries in the world, in this case it was Singapore, Denmark, and Mexico, and tried to really unpack what they were doing in their workplaces that were leading to much higher statistical rates of happiness. And boiling that whole chapter down, here were the 5 things that you can personally do in your work life to make your workplace happier. Number 1, and this is one I'd actually heard of, you guys probably have as well, but people who have a best friend at work are oftentimes much happier than those who report not having friends at work. And according to the research, 2 in 10 Americans say that they do have a best friend at work. So of those 2 in 10, so that 20%, those people are reporting being 7 times more engaged in their jobs and have much higher rates of actually having their coworkers say they do a good job and being appreciated. So there's something there about having kind of the social connections with your coworkers. So that was the first one. The second one is to seek a job that fits you, to maybe not do necessarily what your parents did or the path you're being led down at school, but to really take some time in your life to think about the job you're doing and make sure it's something that brings you personal satisfaction and joy. The third one, this is a little harder, is consider your work hours. So in all cases where this author, Dan Buettner, talked to people, they were all working 40 or less hours per week. So I don't know how they were making that work for them, given their situation, but after 40 hours a week, there aren't a lot of reports of people necessarily getting happier by working more, even if they're making more money. No surprise there. The fourth one was to avoid long commutes. So a study showed that it would take, so if you had a 1-hour commute versus just like a bike or a walking commute, it would take a 40% pay rate for that to be break even for you from a happiness perspective. So if you live in a river, like if you now took a job in Portland, it would need to pay 40% more than what you're making now to be as good as the job you could walk to down the street. So that's something worth thinking about. And then the last one, I guess you hear more and more about this, is just setting goals. So people are shown to be much happier at work if they work within a clear framework and they know that if I do X, I will have Y outcome. If it's not a real muddy kind of environment in terms of what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. So that's just kind of quickly, from the perspective of this book. And I've gone over my 5 minutes. So
Oh, that was wonderful.
Thanks, Emily.